Donald Trump has returned to power and has promised to end the war in Ukraine once and for all.
I will have the disastrous war between Russia and Ukraine settled. It will be settled quickly.
Russia continues to advance deeper into Ukraine. Despite facing casualties, Vladimir Putin's soldiers are pushing through, capturing small settlements and villages one at a time. Ukrainian troops are putting up a fight, but Volodymyr Zelensky is asking for backup. He's asking NATO members for more weapons. Zelensky says he can defeat Putin. Neither side is willing to negotiate, but as Putin pushes further, NATO is bracing for impact. And amid the war, another storm is taking shape. America has a new commander-in-chief. Donald Trump is the 47th President of America. His return to power is historical, and he has promised to end the war in Ukraine. Putin says he is ready to negotiate, but the Russian leader has some conditions, which includes Ukraine being denied entry into NATO.
We
assume that the dialogue will be built on an equal and mutually respectful basis, taking into account the significant role played by our countries on a number of key issues on world's agenda, including the strengthening of strategic stability and security. We are also open for dialogue with the new U.S. administration on the Ukrainian conflict. The most important thing here is to address the root causes of the crisis that we have spoken about many times. We also hear his statement about the need to do everything possible to prevent World War III. We certainly welcome this attitude and congratulate the President-elect of the United States of America on his assumption of office.
As fierce fighting continues in eastern Ukraine, Russian troops are laying siege to cities like Sumy, Kharkiv, Dnipro and Zaporizhzhia. Despite getting constant weapons and military aid from the United States and European allies, Zelensky's forces are unable to push back against the Russian onslaught. Donald Trump's entry into the White House is being seen as a lifeline in Kyiv, but the Ukrainian soldiers on the front lines remain skeptical.
He is a strong person. I wish President Trump and all of America success. Ukrainians are ready to work together with Americans to achieve peace, real peace. This is an opportunity that must be seized. Honestly, I do not expect much. I am doing my job. It is difficult for me to say anything, but looking at it from the point of view of a citizen, I would say we need more aviation. Glide bombs are a constant problem that needs to be solved. More aviation would solve it. But again, this is just my personal opinion.
Just ahead of Trump's inauguration, both Russia and Ukraine launched fresh assaults. The goal for both sides was simple: capture the adversary's territory so that negotiations can begin once Trump takes office. Because throughout his election campaign, Trump promised to settle the war between Russia and Ukraine.
Never, by the way, Russia never would have gone into Ukraine. I had a very strong understanding with Putin that it would have never, ever happened. He disrespected Biden. Very simple. He disrespects people. He's smart. He understands. He disrespected Biden. We're talking to Zelensky. We're going to be talking with President Putin very soon. And we'll see how it all happens.
But Putin has different opinions. The Kremlin says it's open to talks, but it's in no hurry to settle scores. Russia continues to blame NATO for the war in Ukraine, while NATO accuses Russia of igniting war in Europe. As the blame game continues, NATO is pushing its weapons closer to the borders with Russia. Just before Trump's inauguration in January, NATO started to deploy its frontline weapons closer to Russia. In December, Norway deployed its F-35 stealth fighter jets to Poland. Norway flew in its F-35 jets along with anti-aircraft systems and over 100 troops to a city in southeastern Poland, which is just about 70 kilometers away from Ukraine. The Norwegian F-35 jets were put to the test within weeks, In January itself, they were scrambled towards Ukrainian airspace after Russia launched over 1,000 cruise missiles and drones at Ukraine. Along with Norway, another Nordic nation has committed to sending troops close to Russia. For the first time ever, Sweden has stationed its tanks, armored vehicles and a battalion of infantrymen to Latvia, marking Stockholm's first deployment to another NATO member since joining the bloc last year. The Swedish troops will join NATO's multinational brigade that's stationed in Latvia. Poland too has increased its deployment towards the border with Belarus. Warsaw has accused Minsk of enabling Moscow's war. Poland says it has detected increased military activity across the fence in Belarus and is going to deploy troops to prepare for any adventurism.
We are preparing for war in peacetime, hence, among other things, bulletproof vests. Because if someone were to throw branches, we would not wear bulletproof vests 24/7 near the border, because those are our standards. We prepare for everything, including the fact that, God forbid, firearms would be used. Because today you never know who will make a provocation and from which side. So, I prefer to be prepared, and these are simply our standards.
As NATO repositions its troops closer to Russia, Putin has begun reaching out to allies. Russia has requested Iran and North Korea for unconditional support. Kim Jong-un has agreed, and now Iran too has made its commitment. Iran's president, Masoud Pezeshkian, recently visited Moscow, where he met Putin. The two leaders agreed to increase their trade, economic and military relations. But the most awaited move happened right after Trump was sworn in. Putin dialed his no-limits friend Xi Jinping, and the two leaders had more than a few friendly exchanges.
Dear President Xi Jinping, dear friend, I am sincerely glad to welcome you and have the opportunity to have a conversation at the beginning of the year, following the established good tradition. It is safe to say that foreign policy ties and joint work between Russia and China objectively play an important and stabilizing role in international affairs. Based on the final results of the year, despite the negative impact from outside, we managed to achieve new good indicators in mutual trade.
On the other side, NATO is consolidating its forces. French President Emmanuel Macron gave a fiery speech where he urged Europe to wake up and smell the threat from Russia.
What will we do in Europe tomorrow if our American ally withdraws its warships from the Mediterranean? If they send their fighter jets from the Atlantic to the Pacific? These are scenarios that we need to prepare for. These are the scenarios that we are preparing for. What is at stake today is to give Ukraine the means to endure and enter any future negotiation in a position of power. Tomorrow, when the hostilities cease, what will be at stake is to give Ukraine guarantees against any return of the war on its territory and insurances for our own security. In this, Europe must play its full role as our armies already do in the eastern flank within the NATO alliance.
Neither Russia nor Ukraine are willing to compromise. NATO is using the time to strengthen its presence on Putin's doorstep. But with neither side agreeing to a peaceful solution, all eyes are now on Donald Trump and his promise to end the war on day one.